This happened a few months ago. I worked as a bartender at a place called the Rusty Tap. The bar was old, and the lights flickered a lot. It felt like no one came in unless they were looking for trouble. Most nights were quiet. I spent those hours taking notes and dreaming of being a writer. But then things got weird. It started on a slow Thursday night. I was wiping down the counter when a man walked in. He looked disheveled, like he hadn't slept in days. He ordered a drink, and then began talking about lost loves. His stories felt strange, like he was in another world. I tried to listen, but the more he spoke, the more uneasy I felt. Suddenly, he stood up and walked towards the restroom. I glanced at the clock. A minute later, I checked the restroom. Nobody was inside. I felt a chill as if the air had thickened. It was like he was still there. A few nights later, a woman walked in. Her eyes were wide, and there was an intensity about her that gave me chills. She began to speak, but her words were like riddles. "Life is a river that flows with the lost," she said. I frowned, confused. What did that even mean? Just then, the jukebox crackled. I thought maybe it was the drink, but I felt something else. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was connected to the bar somehow. After she left, I noticed the jukebox had switched to a song that seemed out of place. A week passed and I hoped I'd imagined it all. Then a man returned. He came in every night at exactly 3 a.m. He sat down and always asked the same question. "Have you seen the light?" The first time it happened, my heart raced. I wanted to tell him no, but I found myself staring at him. His eyes were piercing. Eyes. Every night felt the same. My grip on reality was slipping. I thought of looking into the Rusty Tap's history. I needed answers. What connected these odd visitors? I thought about confronting their ghosts, but fear held me back. On a particularly quiet night, I decided to search online. I flipped through old records and local news. I found stories about tragedies that had happened in the area, but nothing concrete. The past seemed to whisper through the walls of the Rusty Tap. Then the man returned. He sat at the bar, staring at me. My heart raced. I asked if he was okay, but he didn't answer. He just kept looking at me, waiting for something. Then he asked, "Why are you with her?" I felt my heart stop. I turned around, searching for who he meant. But there was nobody there. I felt an icy chill creep up my spine. What did that mean? The heavy feeling of dread settled over me. My stomach turned. I couldn't shake off the unease. I was alone at the bar, filled with questions. What was happening in the Rusty Tap? I needed answers, but the more I thought, the more uncertain I became. The ghosts were quiet, but I could still feel them there, waiting. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about the man's question. "Why are you with her?" I replayed the moment over and over in my mind. Who was he referring to? It gnawed at me. The next evening, I arrived at the Rusty Tap early, hoping to gather myself before my shift. I decided to dig deeper into the bar's history. I found a dusty old file behind the counter, filled with yellowed newspaper clippings. It talked about an accident, a fire that had claimed lives in the building decades ago. I looked over my shoulder, the bar eerily quiet as I pieced together the fragments of the past. The bartender before me had mentioned something about a curse. I shook my head, dismissing it as superstition, but the hairs on my arms stood up. The bartender now was supposed to have left the job shortly after the fire, claiming he couldn't stand the weight of sorrow that lingered. As I read, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. My skin prickled, but every time I turned I found nothing. Just the shadows dancing in the flickering lights. I flipped through the pages, trying to find any clue about the people who had frequented the place back then. Then I felt the temperature drop. I looked up, and there she was again. The woman with the wide eyes. She stood at the end of the bar, her lips moving. I couldn't comprehend her words at first, but slowly they became clearer. "They are waiting for you," she said, her voice echoing in my mind. I felt the sickening dread return. "Who? Waiting for me?" I questioned, my voice trembling slightly. She grinned, and a chill swept through me. Her gaze was piercing, and I felt as if she could see right into my soul. Just then, the The door swung open, and the man with the haunting eyes stepped in. I felt my heart race. He stared at me intensely, then turned to the woman. "You shouldn't be here," he said firmly. Their eyes locked for a moment, and I felt an electric tension in the air. I didn't understand their connection, but it was clear that they shared something far beyond the ordinary. "Why are you with her?" he asked again, this time louder. I didn't know how to respond. I looked from him to her and back again. Before I could gather my thoughts, she pointed at me and said, "He must decide." Then everything went dark. The lights flickered and went out, plunging the bar into shadow. The silence was palpable. I felt like I was trapped in that moment, frozen in fear. "Hello?" I shouted, but my voice seemed to vanish. I strained my ears, listening for any sound, any sign of the two of them. My breathing quickened. "What do you want from me?" I yelled into the blackness. Then, as suddenly as it went out, the lights flickered back on. But there was no one in the bar. I was utterly alone again. My heart raced as I realized I had to face whatever this was. I needed to uncover the connection, to understand what was happening. But then I noticed something. On the bar counter, right where the woman had stood, a small piece of paper lay. I reached out for it, and when I unfolded it, my breath caught. It was a date and a name, an address belonging to a place that no longer existed. I had to find out more. "Who are you?" I whispered into the empty space, my mind racing. I felt like I was at the edge of something, but I didn't understand what. Time was running out, and answers were waiting for me in the dark. The next day felt heavy with anticipation. I knew I had to find that address. There was a compulsion driving me, something that wouldn't let go. I decided to ask around town, even if it made me sound crazy. The name meant nothing to me, but it felt wrong to ignore it. I walked into the local library, the smell of old books wrapping around me like a familiar blanket. I approached the librarian, an elderly woman with thick glasses perched on her nose. She looked up as I explained my situation. "An address?" she repeated, a puzzled expression crossing her face. "What's it say?" I sheepishly pulled the crumpled paper from my pocket. "It's an old place. I think it might be important." As I handed it to her, my eyes darted around the library, hoping for some inspiration, some hint of what I was supposed to find. She squinted at the paper, her brows knitting together. "This is from the old district that was lost in the fire. The building was condemned years ago." My stomach twisted. "Do you know what happened there?" She sighed, shaking her head. "It's a dark story. An explosion caused the fire. Many people died. It's lost to time now. Most don't even speak about it anymore." "Did anyone survive?" I asked, a shiver running down my spine. "No one who was there that night. Just ghosts of memories." She returned my paper, her expression unreadable as she turned back to her books. Frustrated and slightly unnerved, I left the library. Memories of the woman and the man replayed in my mind. "They are waiting for you." What did that even mean? That night I returned to the rusty tap. The place felt different, heavier somehow. I moved through the shadows, trying to shake off the feeling of being watched. I needed answers, and if something was buried here, I had to find it. As I served drinks, I felt a familiar chill. I glanced towards the end of the bar. There she was again, the woman with wide eyes. Her face was slightly more defined now, as if she was becoming clearer with each encounter. She once again mouthed something, but this time her words were laced with urgency. "You must remember." "Remember what?" I shouted, feeling a surge of anger mixed with fear. Before she could respond, I felt a presence behind me. I turned abruptly, and there stood the man, his face tight with concern. "You shouldn't engage with her," he said quietly. "She's not who you think she is." "Then who is she?" I shot back, feeling heat rise in my chest. "Why are you here?" "I'm here to warn you," he replied. "You don't understand the danger you're in. She's been looking for you." "What do you mean?" My heart raced, confusion clawing at me. With a swift gesture, he pointed at the bar mirror. My heart stopped. Reflected behind me were shadows of people, faces I couldn't recognize but felt all too familiar. They seemed to be fading in and out, almost alive. Then something caught my attention. A figure lurching toward me from the depths of the reflection. My breath caught in my throat. That's when I saw it. A hand reaching through the mirror, trying to pull itself out. I staggered back, caught between fear and disbelief. What was happening? Was I unraveling? The woman's words echoed in my mind. You must remember. Before I could process anything further, the bar lights flickered violently. Darkness swallowed the room again, and I felt the world around me shift. Panic surged as I fumbled for my phone, the cold grip of uncertainty clawing at me. We were out of time. I stumbled back, my heart racing as the lights blinked out completely. I fumbled to regain my footing, feeling the rough edge of the bar behind me. The shadows around me thickened, and I could barely hear the muffled sounds of patrons panicking. What is happening? I whispered to myself. The air felt electric, crackling with tension. I needed to know what was behind those faces in the mirror, and the woman's haunting plea weighed heavily on me. I forced myself to breathe steadily and scan the room. I could make out movement. The man was still there, his expression now a mixture of urgency and fear. You need to leave, he shouted, his voice strained. Now. Leave? I can't just run without knowing what's going on, I retorted, desperate to hold on to some sense of control. It's not safe here, he insisted, taking a step closer. They'll come for you if you stay. The woman wants... Before he could finish, a low hum vibrated through the bar, growing louder. I felt a pull, like those shadows were reaching for me. Panic clawed at my gut. I turned toward the mirror again, unable to look away. The hand was closer now, and through the glass, I saw broken faces pressed against the surface. I felt a chill run down my spine as their eyes locked onto mine. Some were familiar, and others were strangers, each filled with desperation. Help us, their silent screams seemed to say. Get away from the mirror, the man yelled, pulling me toward the exit. I resisted for a moment, desperate to unravel this puzzle. What do they want? There's no time, he shouted again. They want to drag you in. You're connected to them. You need to break free. His words struck a chord deep within me. What was my connection? My heart thumped harder as I took in the chaos. The bar's walls felt as if they were closing in, pushing me toward the mirror again. Please, he begged, eyes wide. You have to trust me. I turned to look at him. Really look at him. He was terrified yet resolute. If I run, I might lose everything, I whispered, wrestling with my own doubts. Suddenly, the lights flickered back to life. The bar was eerily quiet, yet the oppressive energy hung thick. The woman was gone. The figures in the mirror had also vanished, leaving only my reflection staring back, glazed with confusion and fading fear. What just happened? I murmured, almost to myself. The man shook his head, his gaze darting around the bar. We don't have much time, he insisted, urgency dripping from every word. You have to come with me. You can't face this alone. Just then, the door swung open and a cold gust swept through, extinguishing the immediate warmth of the bar. A sense of foreboding wrapped around me like a shroud. Someone stepped inside, tall and cloaked, their face hidden in the shadows. My breath hitched, and my intuition screamed at me. That's when I knew. They were here. The cloaked figure stepped into the dim light, and for a moment, everything around me faded into a blur. My head spun, and the air felt thicker, every breath laborious. Shadows twisted like they were alive, writhing under the weight of that presence. Stay close, the man urged, his voice low but urgent. He positioned himself slightly in front of me, ready to shield me from whatever evils awaited us. The figure paused, tilting its head as if it sensed our panic. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to move, to run, but my feet felt glued to the ground. The cloaked figure raised a hand and gestured toward us, a slow, deliberate movement. With that motion, a chill surged through the room, freezing everything in place. What do you want? I finally managed to shout, my voice quaking despite my defiance. The figure shifted slightly, and the air thickened with dread. You must choose, a voice rasped from beneath the hood, sharp and echoing, sending shivers down my spine. It was not just a voice. It felt like a chorus of whispers mingling together, scratching at the back of my mind. "Choose what?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. The question hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. "You can save them, or you can save yourself." The words hung like a terrible weight over me. "Time is short. You need to decide." As the figure spoke, flashes of images flooded my mind, faces twisted in agony, the silent pleas of the people I had seen in the mirror. Their fear looped through my thoughts, begging for a resolution. I didn't know if I was the key, but something deep inside me sensed I had a part to play. "Let's go!" the man urged again, grabbing my arm. But I felt another pull, stronger this time. I glanced back at the figure, who stood motionless, waiting for my response. "Please," I begged, desperation flooding my voice. "Who are you? What do you mean by choose?" The more I asked, the more certain I became that this was about those faces, the connection I felt. The figure's hood moved slightly, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw a faint smile beneath the shadows. "The door will close soon," it hissed. The eye sockets were deep and unyielding, and I knew I had to act before the opportunity vanished, like smoke slipping through my fingers. "Trust me," the man said, and panic gripped me. I should run. I should go. But those faces pulled at my heart. They reached out to me, each one a moment lost, a life abandoned. Then, in a breath, everything around us shifted. The walls trembled, and the reflection in the mirror warped and swayed. "You must decide now," the cloaked figure insisted, voice rising, filled with urgency. A low rumble seemed to resonate through the entire bar. "Let's go!" the man shouted, practically dragging me toward the exit as I still hesitated. But as we stumbled backward, a splintering sound echoed through the bar, causing both the cloaked figure and the front door to shatter. My world tilted, and the shadows closed in around us. That's when I saw it. A glimmer in the shattered glass, a reminder of what I could lose if I didn't act fast. I made my choice. I lunged toward the glimmer, heart racing. The shards of glass sparkled around me like a constellation of lost stars. My fingers brushed against a piece, cold and jagged, and I felt a rush of energy ripple through me. Suddenly my surroundings flickered. I was no longer in the bar. The shadows had peeled away to reveal a different world, dim and haunting. We stood on an empty street, and the air was thick with an unnatural silence. The man beside me shifted nervously, glancing from side to side. "What just happened?" he muttered, his eyes wide. I could see the uncertainty reflected in his face, and it only added to the rising panic inside me. "Where are we?" I asked, my voice trembling. The last thing I wanted was to be trapped in this eerie place. I don't know," he replied. "But we need to find a way back." Before we could move, the chilling wind picked up, swirling around us. Suddenly, a figure stepped into view, emerging from the darkness down the street. My pulse quickened as I recognized the cloak, the same one from before. "It's not over," the cloaked figure rasped, its voice cutting through the silence like ice. "You've chosen, yes, but the consequences are yet to unfold." "What do you mean?" I shouted, panic clawing at my throat. "What consequences?" The figure didn't respond immediately. Instead, it raised its hand, and the ground beneath us began to tremble. I stumbled backward, fear anchoring me to the spot. The air thickened again, and shadows flickered at the edges of my vision. Then I felt it. A tugging sensation, as if the world itself was pulling. I gasped as more flashes of those faces engulfed my mind again. This time, they were more vivid, eyes wide with fear, mouths open in silent screams. Despair washed over me. "I can't save them!" I cried out, tears biting at my eyes. "They depend on your resolve," the figure said, voice stern yet haunting. "Do you want to live free, or will you embrace the turmoil to save them?" I don't even know who they are," I shouted, frustration boiling over. "Why do I have to decide?" "Because it is your heart that binds them to this fate," the figure replied, the shadows around it swirling like a storm, "and only you can break the chain." I turned to the man, searching for support, but his expression mirrored my own confusion. We stood on the brink of something monumental, the weight of decisions so heavy it felt like the air around us was bending. "Tell me what I need to do," I pleaded, desperation making my voice a whisper. "Find the vessel of your choice," the figure instructed, "and connect with their essence. But beware, the shadows will rise against you, testing your resolve." Before I could respond, the ground beneath me cracked open, sending a shockwave through the air. Everything started to collapse inward. I only had a moment to take in the chaos before darkness engulfed me. Something inside screamed I wasn't finished. I couldn't let it end like this. I reached out blindly, grasping for anything. That was when the world shattered into a million pieces around me. Then everything went dark. I emerged from the darkness, gasping for breath. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt disoriented. The world around me was muted, smeared in shades of gray. I blinked, trying to adjust. It looked like I was back in the bar, but everything felt wrong. The familiar sounds of laughter and clinking glasses were gone. Instead, low whispers surrounded me. "Where are you?" someone breathed, the voice echoing in my head. My skin prickled with unease. I could feel eyes watching me from the shadows. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky. Silence greeted me. My fingers ran along the bar's edge, searching for something solid to hold on to. The wood felt warm beneath my touch, but the sense of familiarity faded, replaced by an urgent need to escape. I turned to find the man who had been with me, but he was gone. Panic surged through me. "What just happened?" I whispered, but no one answered. I was alone. Then, as if the air had been sliced open, a figure emerged from the darkness. I recognized the cloak, but this time it looked tattered, frayed at the edges. The figure stepped closer, and I tried to back away, but tripping over a bar stool sent me sprawling to the ground. "It seems fear has consumed you," the figure said, its voice low and rhythmic, almost taunting. "You've returned, but not alone." "Alone?" I shot back, scrambling to my feet. "What do you want from me?" It pointed a long, bony finger behind me. I hesitated, then turned. My heart sank. The bar had transformed. The once cozy booths now resembled cages, with shadowy figures trapped inside, their faces distorted by terror. I took a step back, breath hitching in my throat. "They are here because of you," the figure said, stepping into the dim light. "Each soul reflects a part of your heart. Choose wisely, or they will be forever lost." "Lost? I don't even know them!" I shouted, anger mixing with fear. The shadows shifted, and the figure's desperate eyes seemed to plead with me. Something inside me compelled me to help them, even if I didn't understand why. "Choose?" I repeated, feeling the weight of the decision bear down on me. "What if I don't choose? What happens then?" "It's simple," the figure replied. "Embrace your choice or doom them to the shadows." Before I could respond, the ground beneath me began to ripple like water. A shudder passed through the bar as the lights flickered. The whispering grew louder, filled with cries for help. I felt my determination slip as uncertainty clawed at my mind. Then something glinted near the edge of the bar, a shard of glass, reflecting light. I remembered the energy of the last piece I had touched. That overwhelming sensation surged in my chest, stirring up something deep inside. "I don't want to lose anyone!" I screamed, grabbing the shard. The figure watched, an unreadable expression hidden beneath its hood. "Then you must connect," it urged, a hint of urgency cutting through the shadows. "Before it's too late." As the glass shard pulsed with light, the whispers turned into a deafening roar. Everything around me blurred, and I knew I had to act fast. I needed to find a way through the chaos. My eyes darted toward the figures in the cages, and I made my choice. I would reach them, no matter what the shadows threw at me. Then the ground cracked once more, and darkness pulled at me again. I clutched the shard tighter, feeling a spark of hope ignite within me as the world spiraled out of control. I felt myself being yanked into a whirlpool of shadows and light. The shard pulsed rhythmically in my hand, a beacon in the tumult around me. I focused on the flickering figures, searching their faces. I needed to understand. Each expression was a plea, raw with fear. The world twisted, and I stumbled forward, past the cages. They rattled like keys in a lock, the figures inside pressing against the bars, stretching their arms out as if trying to reach for me. I could feel their desperation wrapping around me, pulling me closer. "Please!" one of them cried out, her voice breaking through the chaos. "Don't leave us!" I hesitated, then stepped closer to the cage. A dim light wrapped around her as I held up the shard. It vibrated with energy. "I'll help you," I shouted, but doubt crept in. Would I even be able to save her? The figure of the cloaked one watched, its expression hidden, but its presence felt like a weight pressing down on me. It stepped back, lips curled in a silent grin as if enjoying the show. I shook my head, refusing to be intimidated. I dropped to my knees in front of the cage. "What can I do?" I asked the woman. Her eyes shone with a mix of hope and despair. "The memories," she whispered. "You need to remember us. Only then can you break the curse." "Memories?" I repeated, panic welling up again. I didn't know these people. What memories was I supposed to conjure? Suddenly the shadows writhed, and the whispering grew more chaotic, drowning out my thoughts. I felt a rise of panic. How could I fight this if I didn't even know what to fight against? Then I spotted a man in another cage, his gaze meeting mine. "You know me," he said, his voice a lifeline in the chaos. I squinted, trying to place him. "Remember the night we met? The truth is there." My heart raced. I couldn't shake the feeling that what he said was important. It felt like a puzzle piece clicking into place, but nothing came to mind. As I focused on him, the air shimmered, and fragments of memories crashed into me like waves. I stood in a dim corner of the bar, laughter surrounding me. The man's face was clearer now. He had been there, smiling, talking. But the details were fuzzy, slipping through my fingers like sand. "Focus!" he urged, his voice cutting through the chaos. I squeezed the glass shard tighter, and suddenly the bar shifted again. The dim lighting brightened, illuminating walls lined with mirror-like reflections of the trapped souls. An unsettling image formed. They were all me, pieces of my past, moments I had buried deep. "Damn it!" I yelled, frustration boiling over. This wasn't about choosing anyone, it was about confronting myself. The truth was buried within the shadows of my mind, and I had to dig it out. Just then, the cloaked figure lunged forward. "Time is running out!" it hissed, claws like fingernails outstretched. "You must decide!" My heart dropped. I realized I had to find a way to connect with every one of them, not just the first soul who called to me. But before I could think of how to do it, the space around me collapsed. I felt myself being pulled up into a blinding light. Then everything went dark again, and just like that, I was back on shaky ground, familiar shadows swirling around me. But this time, I could hear their voices clearly. "Choose us. Save us. Release us." And I knew I was running out of time. I blinked hard, trying to adjust to the darkness. The voices faded, but the weight of their pleas remained heavy in the air. I was back in the bar. The familiar scent of stale beer and old wood hit me, but everything felt off. Shadows flickered around the tables, and the laughter I once enjoyed now felt mocking. I stood up. The energy from the shards still buzzed in my veins, a reminder of the urgency pressing down on me. I had to piece together these memories, but where to start? The faces from the cages flashed through my mind. "Focus," I muttered to myself. I made my way to the corner where I first saw the man. Just as I turned, the lights flickered above. Each blink pulled me deeper into confusion. Was I manifesting this, or was something else trying to break through? "Hey!" I shouted, hoping to draw the man back. "Can you hear me?" The air thickened with tension. I approached the bar, my heart racing. I knew I should feel safe here, but the atmosphere felt sinister instead. Suddenly, the bartender appeared, wiping a glass absent-mindedly. "What's it gonna be?" he asked, his voice flat, eyes unfocused. I'm looking for someone," I stammered. "A man who—" He cut me off. "They're all here. You just have to ask." "What do you mean?" I pressed. Before he could answer, his eyes went wide, looking past me. I turned, following his gaze. A figure stepped from the shadows, cloaked and familiar. I felt my pulse quicken. "You!" I gasped. "What do you want from me?" The figure stepped closer, and I noticed faintly glowing eyes peering from beneath the hood. "You're not ready," it hissed. "Not yet." "Why?" I said, frustration bubbling up. "Why are you doing this?" The bartender slammed the glass down, shattering it on the counter. "They've all made their choices," he snapped, startling me. "You're just another lost soul." "Lost? Me?" I grasped the shard tighter, a spark of defiance igniting within me. "No! I won't let you keep me here." The cloaked figure let out a chilling laugh. Just as it did, the bar twisted around me. Everything spun, and suddenly I was back in a different place, another memory clawing its way forward. A raucous party engulfed me, music thumping, laughter ringing out, blurring my vision. I saw the man from before, but not from the shadows. His face was animated, alive. He approached, a drink in hand, a wide smile plastered across his face. "Remember this?" he shouted above the noise. The warmth of connection washed over me, but just as quickly, it turned ice cold. I was trapped in a moment I had forgotten, and I wanted to scream for help. But then, everything went dark. I gasped for air, the shards of glass still clutched in my hand. The haunting laughter of the bartender echoed in my mind, a death knell ringing. I had to find a way through this chaos. I had to remember. I looked around, panic crawling up my spine. Every memory felt just within reach, yet untouchable. When I finally exhaled, more voices joined the growing chorus. "Remember us. Remember us," they called, and I realized with a shock, their faces were all reflected in the shards of glass. "What did I do?" I whispered, fear prickling the back of my neck. That's when I saw it. A bright flicker at the end of the bar. A figure poised in the aftermath of my revelation. Who were they? I stepped closer, heart thundering, but something told me I was unprepared for what I'd face next. I took a shaky breath, the air around me thick with anticipation and dread. The flickering light drew me in, illuminating the space beyond the bar, casting a wash of eerie shadows. As I approached, the familiar figure revealed itself. The woman with wide eyes, standing there as if she had been waiting all along. "Why are you here?" I asked, my heart racing. Her presence felt powerful, yet unsettling. "You need to confront the truth," she replied, her voice soft but insistent, laced with urgency. "They're counting on you. It isn't merely about saving them. It's about understanding your past." "What past? I don't even know who they are," I shouted, the frustration boiling over. I glanced around the bar, shadows stretching toward me, dark fingers creeping in. "You do know," she insisted, holding my gaze. "You have to remember the choices that brought you here. The moment will pass if you don't act." As she spoke, flickers of memories began to rush back. Moments of joy and laughter, of loss and regret. All naturally connected. Pieces of a puzzle I didn't realize I'd been trying to solve. "The party," I murmured, recalling the man's laugh, the warmth of that night seeping through me, pulling at my heart. "Yes," she encouraged. "Find the connection. They were parts of you that you buried deep, moments of despair, of love. But what if I fall? What if I lose them again? What if I lose myself?" I pressed, swallowing hard, feeling the weight of their haunted eyes against me. That flicker of hope felt ephemeral amid the waves of uncertainty crashing over me. "They've already lost themselves," she said, her voice steady. "Your fear is their bond. Choose to break free, to find those memories that will tether you to a world without shadows." Suddenly, the figure from before, the cloaked presence, loomed from the shadows, distant but clear. "Time is running out," it commanded, the urgency echoing against the walls. "You cannot linger forever in memories past. Embrace the choice, or be consumed." I felt an icy grip on my heart. The whispering cries of the trapped figures echoed around me. They now flickered in and out of perception, and I knew I could either choose to remember, or let them be lost forever. The burden of my decision pressed down, heavy and suffocating. I glanced back at the woman, who stood resolutely, eyes pleading. "You have the power to connect these fragments. They are waiting for you to bring them together." "I don't know what to do," I shouted, panic coursing through me. The shadows began to close in again. but I held tight to the shard, feeling a surge of energy ripple through my fingers. "You need to believe," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon. "Feel their presence. Reach for the truth." With newfound determination surging bolstered by her reassurance, I closed my eyes, focusing on the warmth of the shard. Memory after memory flooded my mind. The faces of those trapped, the laughter and joys we had once shared. I could almost hear their voices rise above the din, piercing the heavy veil of darkness that surrounded me. It was then that the mirror behind me shimmered and rippled, shifting the barrier between past and present once more. I opened my eyes, stood firm, and approached the glass, filled with resolve. The faces within it transformed, each one distinct and alive, glimpses of my past demanding recognition. "Remember me," one face whispered, a touch of familiarity about him. "You felt my laughter, my love." We were bound by joy. I reached out, fingers brushing against the cool surface of the mirror. "I remember," I replied, words spilling into the swirling shadows that surrounded me. "I can feel you." The cloaked figure took a step back, the atmosphere shifting. The shadows began to tremble, and I pushed on. "You're part of my essence. You were never lost. You were simply waiting." The woman's face lit up, a fire igniting behind her eyes. "Yes, draw them forth." I steadied my breath and called out, "Join me again." My voice resonated, breaking through the swirling chaos, binding our memories together. I felt their energy surge, filling the space around me with warmth, a flicker of light igniting as the shards of glass gleamed brighter. Chains of shadows were cast aside, freeing faces trapped within. "Thank you," they murmured as they shimmered into existence beside me. I could see their forms clearly now, no longer lost but alive. Beacons of their own memories intertwined with mine. But as they grasped onto the space around them, I felt the cloaked figure re-emerge in front of me, its presence darker. "You have chosen." Its voice wavered between anger and awe. "But know this, consequences await. The balance you have shifted cannot go unnoticed." A chill filled the air as I watched the freed spirits swirl around me, their gratitude wrapping around me like warmth. Freedom tasted sweet, yet confusion tugged at the edges of my consciousness. The shadows flickered again, and I realized that despite the chaos moving back into obscurity, I had finally broken the cycle. "Is this over?" I whispered, uncertainty twisting in my gut. The cloaked figure tilted its head, an inscrutable expression hidden within the shadow. "The choice has been made, and your bond with them reigns," it said. "But know that not all is resolved. The echoes of the past linger still." The room began to shimmer, the light radiating from my heart, binding the threads of the past with the presence of the spirits. Yet, in that moment, I couldn't help but feel the weight of uncertainty. What would happen now? Would I always remain tethered to this place? I took a step back, gazing across the bar filled with flickering memories and shadows still lingering beneath the surface. I had salvaged my past, but the future felt far from clear. And as I turned to leave the rusty tap, I felt the echoes of the trapped spirits entwined within me. I might have freed them, but questions still hung heavy, weaving doubt within my heart. And somewhere deep down, I still wonder, had I really broken free, or was this just the beginning of something far darker?